Hi everyone, it's Claudia. I know that this week has been exhausting for a lot of people, a lot of Black people who are exhausted, but they are still willing to share stories and open up a lot of their wounds with us. And a lot of us were also exhausted because of now seeing what's been happening of the injustice. And also, I'm sure that a lot of you who are tired maybe of hearing about Black Lives Matter and wondering why does it really matter to you. So I just want to share a little bit about myself with you to let you know how I actually came about believing in this movement. It's been a very long journey. I want to share because for us to start having an open mind, for us to really start seeing what has been happening, it's not an overnight click. It takes time, maybe years, maybe for myself, it's been 30 years. And then now it clicked. So I just want to share a little bit more with you about what I mean by that. So when I actually first came here, that was back in 1991, I was actually bullied by Chinese kids. It's the Chinese kids who were giving me a very hard time. And at that moment, since then, I hated being Chinese. I didn't want to have anything to do with them. I do not identify myself as a Chinese. That was when I was in elementary school. When the ironic thing is when I just started working, I actually volunteered my time at this organization called Across, which is an organization for Chinese Canadian youths. I was helping out training Chinese Canadian kids, leadership and things like that. But still, I did not identify myself as Chinese. Moving forward, I met my now husband. He is Filipino background, and of course, that was a humongous conflict between myself and my family. Then we had our kid, and since then, I was thinking be a model for him. That's why I started my business, because I really believe that if I can show him that I can do something as a normal, ordinary Chinese girl living in Toronto, then he can do anything. And then, of course, a few months back, I was like saying, do you know what? I really need to get back into God. Really needed to examine what it means to go back to God. Myself, I'm Catholic, and my husband's also Catholic. Not that we're practicing, we're non-practicing Catholics, but there is something there that's missing. I need to go back to God. And just because of the timing of this movement, I said to myself, if God really believes that everyone should love each other, then I need to do something. Because if I don't, then what's the meaning of me going back to God? So then I started listening to stories, reading, and my heart was broken. Because for the longest time, I didn't know that I'm racist. Even though I know I'm racist against my own people, Chinese people namely. But I was also racist against people of color, of Black people, because of myself being apathetic to myself being Chinese. And what I mean by that is that for the longest time, I believe that if I don't care about what other people think about me, then I don't really care about what I think about them. And so, like, if let's say I'm going to walk down the street, I don't really look at what other people look at. Like, if they are looking at me, I don't really care. And that's my son crying in the background. So if let's say I go to a store, if someone looks at me or monitors me, I don't care. I don't even pay attention to that. But at the same time, I know that if I'm going to walk down the street, because of my complexion, because of me being a girl, no one's going to come up to harm me. Now, unless they're like a rapist or something like that. My Instagram stories, I share two people's stories. One of them was Patrice. She was talking about how she flew from Chicago to New York to do a TV interview as a motivational speaker. While she was waiting for the interview, she noticed that her nail got chipped. She wanted to go from her hotel to get her nail fixed. During the elevator ride, she encountered this older white gentleman. Right before exiting the elevator, he said, "Ladies first." So his wife left. The other white lady stepped out, and when she was about to move, he blocked her with an umbrella. And then he repeated, "I said ladies first." What does that mean? That just means that to him, she's not human. And then the other one was Diona's story, where she was telling us when her daughter was 5 years old, she brought her to an African American museum and had to show her their history of slavery, of them being sold, being shipped off, being tortured. Her daughter was 5 years old. I just recently had a conversation with my colleague where her son was telling all his classmates that Santa Claus is not real, and the classmates' parents were complaining, "Stop telling my kids that Santa Claus is not real." And then I was also reading some stories with the Say Their Name project, started by Connie Chan. And one of the ladies is called Sandra Bland, and she was just literally driving down the street close to her campus, and she didn't signal while changing the lanes, and then she got pulled over, and the cop ended up pulling her out of the car. She wasn't resisting, but he ended up pulling her out of the car, handcuffed her, and sent her to jail. And we don't know if she committed suicide or if anything happened. She died in jail 3 days later. And then the name that I chose is John Bell. He and some of his buddies were having a bachelor party for himself because he was about to get married soon. They went to a strip club. When they came out, he encountered this incident where the cops were cracking down on this drug dealer case, and they came out and they got shot. And there was no justice, no anything. And I'm sharing these stories with you because I just want us to first realize that our skin color does have a privilege. I know the term white supremacy may not sit well with a lot of people, but it's a fact that a lot of the people who are white, they're well respected, even with Asian countries, right? Because if, let's say, I want to go to Asia to teach English, and if a white person is going to go to Asia to teach English, they are going to like that teacher more than me, just because of my skin color, just because of the mentality that we have, the racism that we have. If it tugs at your heart and you want to do something but you don't know what you can do, take a small step. Maybe this week when you go to a store and you notice a black person in the same store as you, maybe take a look at what the store people are doing. Are they following them? Maybe you're taking a walk, it's nice weather outside. When you're walking down the street and a black person's coming towards you, a group of black people coming towards you, take a note of what your internal thoughts and reactions are. Do you feel like you need to cross the street to avoid them? Do you have a heightened sense of awareness that there may be a danger coming? What about talking to your husband or wife or your kids or your grandkids? If you don't know how to open this conversation, maybe show them this video and say, "Hey, what do you think about this?" Or tell your kids or grandkids, you do have the power to stand up for someone if you see any bullying happening. We can do a lot. But first of all, I want you to see what's been happening. And I know it's not an overnight change of heart, change of mind. As I told you, my story has been 30 years in the making. And then at this point in time, it clicked for me. As a calligraphy teacher, I personally believe teaching calligraphy is not the only thing that matters. If I truly believe that there needs to be a community, then I need to take care of the people in my community. because I cannot imagine once I establish this community, and if one of my students got killed because of this nonsense, how will I feel? How is my community going to feel? Right? This community, if I'm going to bring out a community, I want my community to be able to support each other, be able to share the thoughts with each other. If you feel down, if you feel like threatened, I want all of us to be able to stand up together. And if you're listening to me because you are following me, because you like my work, I also want to make sure that your value aligns with my value, and I want to share with you what I stand for. And I really hope that whatever I'm sharing is going to touch you, is going to open your mind even just a little bit. And that click is what I'm hoping for. Because at the end of the day, if I really truly believe in God and truly believe that we are supposed to love everyone, writing words on paper doesn't mean anything. Writing words on paper is just writing words on paper. These little actions will help. And I hope, and I truly hope that, I know it's going to be a long fight, but I truly hope that eventually our next generation and our next generation, this gap will get smaller, and there's a lot more love going around, where really it's truly that when you look at a skin color, it doesn't really matter. What matters is your heart. And I hope that this is what we're striving toward.